Okay.
So maybe we're live, maybe we're not live.
Maybe we are, maybe we aren't. Okay, so we're on Facebook and YouTube, but not Twitter. So let's just go find out. Here we go.
Well, so guys, we're doing something that we've never done before, and I got to look over here at the camera. You see us, normally we're not sitting beside each other, but we are sitting beside each other tonight. And a lot of you may not realize it, but tonight is National Night Out. And,
Yeah, well, and we're down here in front of Immanuel Lutheran Church on Airline Drive. We've got Bossier PD is here, Bossier Fire Department. They're, like you said, having a National Night Out deal. They're cooking hamburgers and hot dogs. So I think we're supposed to invite people if you want to stop by. We're across the street from Walmart and Chick-fil-A over on Airline Drive.
Well, not Chick-fil-A, Zaxby's.
No, Zaxby's.
How
one of those Chick-fil-A.
How dare you insult Chick-fil-A that way?
I know. Catty corner from Cane's, across the street from Walmart, and Immanuel Lutheran Church on Airline Drive. I have no idea what the address is, but you can find us.
They're going to call the Popo and say, y'all are assaulting Chick-fil-A over here.
All right, I'm going to do an audio check, make sure I can hear. So ramble on aimlessly for a second. Let me see if I can hear.
Well, there's a lot of folks here already, and a lot of, that grill cooking over there smells good. And, been some enjoyable conversations already with a lot of the folks here. There's some politicians in and out, some people in government, and, enjoyed having those conversations. But there's a lot going on in the world, a lot happening in Bossier City and around, and we're going to try to do our best to wing through some of that stuff. We didn't have a show last week. Somebody said 2 weeks. It ain't been 2 weeks.
No, I think we just skipped last week, and I had some personal stuff. My wife had surgery, and so on that Tuesday, and so we decided to just go ahead and skip the week. We didn't have a whole lot of breaking stuff to talk about anyway, and but now we are back, and well, we're trying something experimental.
Yeah, experimental. That's a good point. I mean, the closest thing to this from a live place was Man on the Streets during the term limits petition, going out collecting signatures, and we think that a lot of these folks here are going to come over here, and we've talked to some of them, and some of them said they had some comments they wanted to make and some things they wanted to say, but certainly nobody has to. But we're here, and if anybody wants to come talk, they're more than welcome to come sit down in the chair, and we can have a conversation and talk about anything. It's
anything and everything. Y'all come on down. All right, let's go ahead, and I'm gonna let's go ahead and do the countdown in the intro, and then when we come back out of it, we've got some things to talk about. Apparently, there was a trap set today by the city of Bossier.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Boy, that was a slick trap.
Yeah, it was.
Bossier City. Did y'all know we had a toll road in Bossier City?
Y'all did not know that.
I didn't know. Apparently we do.
All right, so I'm going to hit the countdown. Folks, y'all know the drill. We'll be back in about 2.5 or 3 minutes. Seriously, if you're in Bossier on Airline Drive right now, we're at Immanuel Lutheran Church. It's at the intersection of Melrose and Airline Drive, across from Walmart and Catty Corner to Cane's Chicken. Come on by and sit down and have a chat with us, and you too can be on Bossier Watch and have a target put on you.
And have a hamburger.
And have a hamburger and a hot dog. We'll be right back.
A lot of the back office on the politicians that they think walk on water, they would be shocked. There's an old wound from a knife in my back that just is giving me heck lately, and it's just really irritating, so I have to kind of wiggle around a little bit.
I titled it "A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys."
Just, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
Some Republicans as well believe that government has the answers, and let me tell y'all something. I don't know anything government does well. Nothing.
And aren't there laws that say that you have public meetings so that the public can have accountability of their elected officials?
As a member of the media, I'm very concerned about what I've just heard.
Well, I'm not thinking Star Wars at all. I'm thinking zombie apocalypse. Oh, folks coming from the border down there?
Yeah, it's going to border. It's actually going to Mexico, the buses.
Doesn't mean they interpret it the same way that I do. For instance, the Second Amendment. I take it very literally. That's been interpreted different ways in the court system all the way up to SCOTUS. We're still right now combined on both pages and YouTube at 264 people watching. That is amazing, folks. Through conscious shocking actions, which in turn would enrich sitting city council members Scott Irwin and David Montgomery Jr.
In theory, you know, it's an every week thing. We got to double check and make sure it's like a miracle any of this actually works. This live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go.
Okay, so I can see Kara. She's sitting right over there. She doesn't. I can actually eat on the show, and she's not going to catch it unless she turns around and looks at us.
Yeah, well, it's our show. We can do it if we want to. These are some great hot dogs that Miss Ruth Johnson brought over to us, so we appreciate that.
So,
Papa can give us for eating on the show.
So, Sue, if we were anything other than amateurs, we'd know that we can only one of us eat at a time. You know.
Yeah, that way there's not that awkward silence. So I guess let me adjust this light. I've got a ridiculous amount of glare real quick. Ramble for a minute, then we'll get into some actual topics.
All right. So tonight on the show, there's been some developments and updates on a couple of court cases. Of course, you know, we'll talk about the term limits petition and its standing in the Second Circuit. There's been some developments in regards, a lot of you may or may not remember the Red Rover case. You remember the business over off of, I think it's Stockwell. Anyway, I'm going to be nice. There were some developments out there. And, you know, today, I think it was this morning or yesterday, the Walter O. Bigby carriageway opened up with a bang. And it opened
a bang and apparently should I call it a speed trap?
They never advertised that was going to be a toll road. I never once heard anybody report that it was going to be a toll road. How does this happen?
Well, I don't know. I saw the deal pop up on Keel, and I'm trying to watch the comments too. Let's see. Cassie says, Rex, my mic. Squirrel moment here, folks. Hope my mic is fine now. But anyway, so according to reports and according to Keel, apparently the Bossier City PD was writing some tickets and initiating people coming across the Walter O. Bigby carriageway.
Yeah, I mean, you know, look, they opened the thing up. It's got posted speed limits. I mean, I've never been on it. I had no idea what the speed limit was. I'm sure the people that were, I have it on good authority, I think the people that were going over 20 plus miles per hour over the speed limit didn't have any idea what the speed limit was either.
Alright, so I'm trying to adjust sound here. I have no idea what's going on. Let me get my mic. Alright, so folks, bear with us. We're literally sitting in the parking lot drive-through area of the church here. And so we're trying to get all of this tweaked. Let me see if I can boost the audio. Now, according to some reports that we heard, apparently there were some of the motorcycle cops that saw some people in excess of 15 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Well, I mean, you said 15. You're being conservative. The number I heard, and you heard the conversation I did, they said it was excessive of 20.
Oh yeah, that's you know
So I mean, what do they do?
I really can't fault the motorcycle guys for for doing something about that, for taking some kind of action.
Yeah, I mean, so, if people were making that the high bank of Talladega, look, the guys on the bikes, they got to do something. And anyway, Keel had a great article about it. I'm sure I would have loved. I didn't listen to them this morning, Robert and Aaron. I'm sure they had a ball with it, but they put a written article out, and they, like you said, they had the box with the mouse trap, and the comments were just amazing.
Well, yeah, look, hey, the city is so far in debt, our debt seems to keep growing that, hey, they got to raise funds somehow. I mean, come on. Hey, did you notice though that when they did the ribbon cutting, you know where they didn't do the ribbon cutting?
Well, I didn't notice where they did the ribbon cutting, but I'm thinking you're going to tell me.
Well, they did the ribbon cutting on the grassy knoll area where it dumps out on the Benton Road over there, but they did not do it around the monument, the Tower of Tax Dollars. I wonder why they didn't use that as the backdrop for the ribbon cutting.
Oh, I know the answer to that.
Why would that be?
Well, because, everybody's cutting hay right now. They don't, the price of hay's kind of going down a little bit. They don't want to cut it right now and round bow it.
That's true. And it would have made for a lot of good jokes that we could have made if they'd actually had David Montgomery and everybody and company standing in front of the Tower of Tax Dollars that, we've droned about incessantly.
Yeah, that would have been great. What was the final number? $180-something million for that thing, and it was supposed to be 30-something million? I don't know.
It's in the tens of hundreds. I don't know, million. It's like it never stops.
Yeah, I don't know that I've actually heard a final number, a final tally of what it ended up costing. But a lot going on in the world. So.
All right, so I let everybody know I'm trying to get the mics adjusted, but normally I can hear. That's why you see me keep grabbing the phone and listening to kind of do an audio check. So just bear with us. Once we get it dialed in pretty good, then it'll be a little smoother.
I gotta cheat. I gotta look over and see what's going on.
Give me just a second. Huh? Oh.
I'm sitting right beside you. So this is weird, guys.
All right, say something.
Something?
All right, got a little bit of a delay.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll just have to make do. Yeah, your mic's much hotter than mine. I have no idea. Apparently, I'm going to have to get us one of those handy-dandy Rode sound.
Well, maybe I'll just back up from the mic a little bit and try to equalize it.
Yeah, mine is low, yours is high. Let me see. Let me make sure I didn't do something. Keep going.
Like I said, I talked to several people that are here that wanted to come and speak, and I will get Kara. Kara, would you go get Ruth Pope to come over? And we'll try to start getting a few of the folks here to come over that we talked to ahead of time that wanted to come on and talk and just chew the fat a little bit.
All right, let's see. Let me see if I can make a couple of adjustments here.
So while I'm kind of waiting, I think I'll go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about an update regarding the term limits petition. So a lot of people have been asking, where it stands with that case. And there's not a lot to tell you other than to just say and that the good old boys won. And you say, well, how did the good old boys win? Well, Miss Ruth, you can go ahead and sit down, and I'll kind of this thought I was telling folks, and I was about kind of an update on where we were on the term limits petition, and basically I was saying that the good old boys won. And it's not that they won the case that's at the Second Circuit. By default, the judges at the Second Circuit Court of Appeal have essentially gave the incumbent councilmen who are fighting the term limits petition, they gave them a win by refusing to hear the case until September. So by waiting to hear it, not hear it until September, That gives them the ability, to prevent it from going on the ballot in December, and then they would be able to qualify again for the spring elections. And what you need to know is that your judges in the Second Circuit Court of Appeal, one being from Bossier, being Jeff Thompson, that's one of them. It didn't like they didn't know. They clearly knew because in one of the briefs it was said basically that if you don't hear this on your docket in the first week of October, which will be this week, you're essentially making a ruling already. And with that, they declined to hear it. So they essentially made a ruling by doing it. Now the case will still come up in September, and who knows what they're going to do. But for now, term limits for this time, for the December ballot, it's not going to happen. And everyone can speculate as to why. They can give their opinions and say why they think that's the case. But I have my opinions, and all I can say is that I think people need to remember this come the spring elections, because a lot of these guys are going to sign their name up on the dotted line and try to run again to maybe even try to punch out 30 years. I mean, who knows? Maybe they want to go for 50 years. So the mold is set. This coming spring, you have the choice to reelect people that disregard what you want. I mean, it's clearly it's in the city charter that the people of Bossier City have the right to petition and to change the rules how they want. And you've got a group of elected officials who said, you know what, we don't care what you want, people of Bossier City. You're out of here. So I'm going to stop talking about this now. Ruth Pope Johnson has came up to the table. So now your camera is actually right over here, but you're talking to us.
There you go. That's what I'd rather do.
Yeah. So this is a cool deal, but y'all don't always do it here. You usually do it in the subdivision, in GreenAcres place.
Oh, GreenAcres place.
No, y'all are the real GreenAcres place here.
We're the original. We were GreenAcres until they built the newer part of GreenAcres. Our first houses were built in this neighborhood with over 3,000 people in 1948. And the last one was not built until the early 1990s, and it's because they always left the lot open so the kids had it to play baseball, and they had dinner on the ground, and it was, it's always been a great family community. And but then they built the other part of GreenAcres, which is GreenAcres Place, and so it got very confusing.
You meant new GreenAcres. Right. They built new GreenAcres Place. Y'all are GreenAcres Place.
And so we became old GreenAcres, and Lord, if anyone wants to ever change that, I mentioned historic GreenAcres one time, and I thought I was going to get run out of the neighborhood. So we are old GreenAcres, and we will always be old GreenAcres, I think.
I got you. Well, I mean, I don't want to put you in a spot. I mean, what do you think about the state of Bossier City? You're on Bossier Watch. What would Bossier Watch be without, political armchair quarterbacking?
Well, I'll tell you, tonight being National Night Out, one of the things that we're known for in Old GreenAcres, and we've done appreciation events for our Bossier City Police Department. I mean, we thank Mayor Chandler. I heard you talking about term limits, and I mean, God love his heart. He's always been in there, for term limits. He ran on term limits. He believes in them, and he was all in, and he was the first one to sign the petitions and whatnot. And the other thing that he did that we always thank him for is, he made Chief Haugen our chief of police in Bossier, and we've worked with him in the community, and we think he's great. We think he's a great leader. I'm really impressed. We had an occurrence, shall we say, in the neighborhood, and they were here for like 5.5 hours. And, you always hear when you're talking about law enforcement that, the risks they take and the danger and whatnot. And I can just tell you, I've believed in that all my life. I've believed in law enforcement all my life. But when you see what they have to put up with day in and day out, and I mean, they're professional, they're well skilled. I'm so proud of this police department. We can never thank them enough. So when it's National Night Out, it's a night to say thank you to, all of our first responders, all of our deputies, and all of our police. Neighborly, our group association is always going to be down for that because we really believe in them. And I'm telling you, when, it looks a lot different close up, and I saw it close up in Old GreenAcres, and I'll never forget that. I can never thank them enough, ever.
So you didn't try out the new bridge this morning?
No, I didn't.
The cold bridge.
Because something tells me you wouldn't have that gloating of a.
I know. They have some tickets or something.
Yeah, I think there was a few wrote today.
No, I haven't. We've been planning this. I haven't had time to go over it yet, but I hear it's great. But I do hear there are some tickets. But the state of Bossier, I think most people tend to look at the city as the neighborhood that they're in and how they feel about the neighborhood. And I'm going to be really honest with you. I am devastated by term limits. We were all down for that. I think in West Marriott's polling that he commissioned, I think like 75% of this neighborhood is for term limits. That's a big percentage. I remember very clearly and very distinctly that when this issue first came up, I thought that our city councilman was for term limits. And I remember then he came back and he said he wasn't for term limits. And I remember this distinctly because I was at that city council meeting. He said, well, yeah, you don't need term limits. He said, if you don't like what we're doing or we're not doing the job, then you just vote us out. And I think in March 2025, we're going to remember that. Those are words that echo in my head.
Yeah.
And for someone to turn their back and not even talk with, we've sent letters and whatnot. 75% of this neighborhood is really, really offensive.
Yeah, and I think it's not just here locally. I think it's nationally. I think it's people see government, and they see people getting into government and their reason and their why being in government, it's like they lose their way and they lose their focus. That it's not about them; it's about the people that you're supposed to be serving.
Yeah.
And
right.
When you're placing your personal interest or your personal belief above what's in the best interest or what the people,
right.
And I'm biased. I think that the term limits petition, not once but twice, showed a clear intent of what the people wanted.
Yeah.
It
could have been. And the version of term limits that they chose was on the petition. So when they signed that petition, they were signing for, term limits with retroactivity. And that's the thing that, people forget. Here's the way I look at it. I know that of all the small fish, in the petition project, I'm the smallest of the small fish. I got some signatures, but not nearly like you guys did. Y'all killed it. And, but the way that I look at that, I know y'all made a concerted decision when you did the second petition to not go back over and just get the persons who had signed the first one. So a lot of the second petition was all new.
That's right.
So if you look at it like that, the way I do it in my little small math mind is that together between the two petitions, you had 5,000 people at least that, of original signatures that signed between the two petitions. And so I look at it as if there are 5 city councilmen that are negating the voice of 5,000 Bossier City residents. And I think that's too far to go. It's a bridge too far.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about bridges.
Not excusable. Bridges isn't the thing of the day. Well, hey, look, y'all have a great event here. You got all the kids are in the back, out. I guess you're that jump house.
Fair.
Yeah, children's fair, and you got all the adults out here at front. I see everybody's eating hamburgers and hot dogs and having a good time. I see a lot of faces that I recognize I hadn't seen in a while. The Brazels, that is a staple of our community. I hope to get to talk to her, Miss Brazel, here in a little while. I remember her from the days of the Tea Party groups
Right.
with Royal Alexander over in Shreveport. And dadgum, what's his name? C.L. Bryant.
Oh, yeah.
And C.L. Bryant back in the day.
Yeah. And of course, Christopher Alexander is a friend, and he does a lot of work with Louisiana Freedom Caucus and whatnot. All those guys are great.
LCAG, Louisiana Conservative Action Group.
Right.
Yep. Chris has been on the show several times.
Yeah.
We talk to Chris all the time. We share some notes. He's like us. He pushes the buttons, and he doesn't care if it makes him mad. I like that about Chris.
Yeah.
I do.
Well, I tell you what, I can go over and get Jimmy for you if you're ready, but I do want to say that we had a lot of deputies. We gave a certificate tonight to Rusty Shoemake, who is a school resource officer, and it's our first Lifesaver Award. He actually saved.
Yeah, tell him to come over and we'll chat with him.
He saved a kid's life. He's a school resource officer, and he saved a child at Waller Elementary that choked in the cafeteria. And so, the gang's all been here, and we're just really proud to put it on. And we're so glad, and thank you, Rex, and you, Duke, for coming.
Thank you for
having us and inviting us.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
let me get Jimmy and Chris.
Perfect.
Is that
All right, so I'm going to test my audio again. Let's see, I guess we're still streaming. My phone is losing the stream, but that may just be my phone. It shows that we're still live. All right, yes. Okay, so I think my audio should be a little better. I had to switch mics. I think it's because we have the same brand and model mic, and it was getting confused. All right. So, thank you for taking up the slack there with Miss Ruth. She did an excellent job of explaining what we're doing out here this evening.
Well, apparently I've already said something controversial because I'm getting messages, and I gotta be.
That didn't take long. Remember, we are at a church.
I didn't think. Yeah, I know. I'm on my P's and Q's here, but anyway.
Well, that leads me into something. So you've already said something that somebody has felt.
No, they didn't take offense. They were just like, it's debating.
Yeah, all right.
I'll say it that way.
Here's what I want to do. I'll put together this video from our very first show, which was in October of 2020. October the 6th.
It's definitely amateur hour.
Yeah, absolutely amateur hour. But it's kind of interesting. It's only about 2 minutes or so. And in that very first show, we explained Bossier Watch and kind of the concept of it. Oh, well, we've got another guest, so we'll have to put the video on hold.
Yeah, well,
we're going to listen to that once we get through. So,
hello, Miss Brazell.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Now, you remember me coming to your door during the term limits petition?
Yeah, but it didn't work.
Well,
not yet.
Not yet. We're still working on it. Now, you've been around the game a long time because you. Yeah, see, amateur journalist here.
You're going to get your phone blown up again.
Well, I was just telling folks on the show, we're live, by the way. I was telling folks that I remember you from the days of the Tea Party movement and C.L. Bryant and Royal Alexander, and that you and your husband put on y'all had Brazell Productions, and y'all used to always have the meetings over at your place. And I remember going over there, and I enjoyed those meetings, with a lot of like-minded, limited government types, and a lot of those people are still active and out working today to try to change things. And you were one of the people that helped facilitate that.
Well, I don't know what we call it then, but now it's called We the People.
Right.
And they're over in a church now. But so they're still active. And
Yeah, and I still deal with some of them a little bit on occasions with some, things down at the legislature, and but I don't know, just those days back then with, Royal was always giving those constitutional classes.
Oh, yeah, he's good at that.
Oh, real good at that, and with what we're doing with the show, and we were just talking about showing our first show. This is our 200 and
28.
200.
Actually, we've done more than that, but officially 228.
And we've coined what we were doing primarily just to try to inform people who are not involved in politics and try to promote them to get more involved in politics and ask more questions. And it's just like a couple of weeks ago, someone said to us, they said, what do I need to do to get involved? I said, just ask a question. All you have to do is just show up and ask a question, and everything will point you in the right direction from there. That's all you have to do. And, you guys were the originals doing it because y'all were promoting people to ask questions and get involved. And, y'all deserve a lot of credit for that back then.
Do you know David Crockett?
Know David Crockett well.
Well, he's talking about y'all's group. He likes y'all's group.
Yeah, and
he's been a very instrumental part. He's one of the original members of the Term Limits Coalition, which is pretty loose knit. I mean, we're not an official organization. It's just like-minded people who like term limits. But he has turned out to be, I call him the Energizer Bunny. It's like once you wind up his little deal and point him in a direction, he just goes and goes and goes and doesn't quit. He probably is responsible for the majority of the signatures on the petition, a large percentage of them anyway.
Yeah, you can't keep up with him on foot. I mean, that guy, he wore a pair of shoes out the first petition, and then I don't know that he did the second one, but he came close, definitely.
Well, we went to 2 meetings, political meetings today, one at 11:30 and one at 1:30. And I rode with David. And each one, we were the last ones there. No one else for him to talk with.
That sounds just like him.
I believe that. Well, just we appreciate you coming on, and just wanted to say thank you. And not oftentimes people who have been politically active and done some good things get credit. And in our small way, in our audience, I just wanted to say thank you.
Well, thank y'all for having us and working with us. We appreciate
Absolutely.
it. And talk to this guy. He's got some things going.
We can turn the mic that way.
Yeah.
Good evening, guys.
Yeah, let me adjust the camera just a little bit. So, unfortunately, that light's kind of in the way, but yeah, that's good enough. That light up there is in the way.
Maybe if you scoot your chair just a hair to your right.
Right there. Up a little bit. That's perfect. Close enough.
Yeah. So, guys, we got Chris Chandler here, in which I recognized Chris Chandler before. I saw him earlier here, and we talked briefly. And I think it was from Republican Party meetings over the years. You may have attended a few or what have you.
Yeah.
And asked about what you were doing, and we were having a conversation with some other folks. And you are somewhat of a historian, and
Well, the word historian comes with a couple of letters called a PhD behind your name. So I don't claim that.
That's great. I'm a Rhodes Scholar of Stupid, so I know.
So I'm what's called a history buff. I've grown up with grandparents from World War II and the Great Depression that taught me things differently than my parents would have done. So I got exposure to some unique things because of my grandparents, and I always loved history. So I grew up loving it, studying it, just reading, an avid reader of history. And today I run a nonprofit that teaches history. So I get students together, and middle school, high school, and college students are my focus. I get them on a bus, and we travel and we learn local history within each parish border. And I have 7 parishes across the state of Louisiana that we teach local history to the local community through our tours. So I've developed that project for 24 years, and I'm over here in Bossier working on our first tour with Bossier and working with the History Center at your library and some other local historians who I rely on to build my tours around. And we're going to be teaching Bossier students about Bossier history, believe it or not, for the first time ever.
Wow.
Through our program.
They don't teach it in school.
We don't teach our local history at all in the educational system. We teach state, U.S., and world history, but we skip the local, the most important thing. This is where we're growing up. This is where we want our kids to build a bond,
Well,
have a sense of purpose and understanding of where it is they're growing up, so they don't.
And I can, and Duke, you can probably remember this too. I know when I was growing up in elementary and junior high and all that, we used to do field trips occasionally, like what's the Germantown colony up
Minden?
Yes, on the other side of Minden over there. And where else did we go? We visited the dog trot houses in Dubach. You know, which I think they moved them from the original locations, but they got the center walkway through it. But it just seems like we don't teach that anymore. I mean, why not?
I know, exactly. So there's a lot of reasons why. That was my big question. So I got to travel all over Europe when I graduated from college here. And I grew up in Shreveport, so I'm a native of this community. And I traveled extensively, and I kept learning all these communities that really, the people that I met knew their community. They could tell you all the stories, all the great reasons why that community existed. And then they turned the question on me and said, tell me where you're from and tell me about this place you call Shreveport, Louisiana. And I had no knowledge. I was 22 years old, just finished college. I couldn't even tell them the first thing about my hometown. So that started this project way back almost 30 years ago. And local history changes people. When you learn about it, we have fascinating history right here in Bossier. Of course, Caddo's a bigger population, but all of our parishes around the state have incredible, interesting history, and it's not taught for a lot of times for political reasons, because we have some dark history. And people are afraid to talk about it because they don't have enough basic understanding of human nature to work their way through that discussion.
That in revisionist history, it seems like we were changing what history was. That galls me more than anything.
There's always a battle, and who's telling the history and who's getting to teach it. There's always been that battle. And whoever the victor is always taught the history, right? They wrote the books, they told the story. So there's always, it's a sensitive subject, but it's very important for people to have a grasp of where it is they're growing up and where it is they're living. And that's what we try to do.
Let me ask you this, because, you know, we live in Bossier Parish, which is one of the most conservative parishes in the state and all that good stuff, but is it because of the parish school board? Is it a state issue? Is it a federal issue? I mean, why have they dropped or you know, greatly suppressed the teaching of history and local history specifically? I mean, who is responsible for actually doing this? We always say it's they. Right. But who is the they?
Well, the local school board holds the power. Now, they get funding from state and federal monies, but the local school board has the power to approve a curriculum. They have to follow some guidelines. And the state testing, which our students unfortunately have to go through this rigorous testing, but that guideline comes from the state level. So you have to follow a state curriculum just to pass those tests. So our students have to take those tests. But the local school board can say, hey, wait, we have a story we want to tell. We want our citizens to grow up learning about it so they have a sense of pride. And we're going to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly about our local history, and we want that taught. So I have to go in and make those presentations and win those people over, but they're the ones that hold the power, the local school board.
We got a comment from Cassie Rogers, who has been instrumental in the term limit, and she says, how can us common folk take the tour?
Yeah, so I've developed 20 tours in my hometown of Caddo Parish, Shreveport. I'm working on the first tour in Bossier, but we have a tour at Barksdale Air Force Base. It's a separate tour. So I have a nonprofit. My focus is on the youth. I do that for free. None of my students pay a dime. I get the local business community to support the cost of the expenses. But we do private tours. We do corporate tours. A private church group could book a tour through our website and through me directly. And we can do a private tour for a private group. We need 25 people normally to make the numbers work because we do a charter bus. Even my students at the middle school, high school, and college level, they're never on a yellow school bus. They're always on a private charter bus. It makes it a special day. And they go on tour, and it's a nice experience to have. So they are available. Just contact me. Look me up on Facebook, and you can find all my contact information.
The same bus like we went on.
Yeah.
Air conditioned.
Oh yeah, first class.
Real nice. Not the roll the windows down and sweat.
Right. Yeah.
Learn something new on the show every Tuesday.
Now, this is getting off of it just a little bit. You and I earlier, we were talking. It was another conversation talking about, and you were talking about all the indicators, you know, are there, you know, for some major events, societally, if that's the right word, and talk about that a little bit.
Well, as a history buff, not a historian, I do a lot of reading, but I do a lot of political talking with people all the time, because that's where I have to have my platform to get my program into the schools. So what I've seen is our country is greatly divided, worse than it was in 1968, which is the most recent time where local history points to a real huge division in our country that was borderline causing another civil war. But historians look at the indicators that lead a group, a country, to divide on itself and what those indicators are, and they study those. And right now, the indicators that we've been looking at and talking about, our country is at a breaking point. Now, I was listening to Bongino on the radio this morning. You turn on Fox News, you turn on any news, and you're going to hear people talking about this country has never been divided like it is today. And why is that to me? The indicators are showing that people they're so separated on the major issues that there's a small group in the middle, whereas historically America had a large group in the middle. Okay, this was a middle group of people that could be convinced with the right argument to vote for a party member on the opposite side of what they held the card in their wallet. Today, that doesn't exist. We have such a division. Everybody's on one side or the other. And it's so animosity. It's riddled with animosity to where people are threatening. The threats are out there. All of this, people like Dan Bongino will tell you the level of threats against Donald Trump as an example. There's threats against Kamala Harris just equally. But the threat level has never been exceeded, these numbers that we're seeing. And it's an indicator that the society's broken down and that people are preparing to come to blows. I'm real concerned about it. This election cycle, it's key for people that have the airways like your group does here tonight to encourage people to talk about issues and try to get out of the things that are making us want to slap each other or hit each other or shoot each other. But talk about the issues and educate ourselves and be open-minded. I want to know why somebody that believes differently from me on an issue, I want to know what led them to believe that. I want them to teach me what worldview and how they came to their worldview. Unfortunately, few people have that basic knowledge to have that conversation. They just choose a side and they throw up their flag.
Yeah, that's crazy, because we're literally living in the information age right now.
Yeah.
We have any information you want to know, good, bad, or indifferent, at our fingertips, and yet it seems like a lot of times people don't do their own due diligence on a particular topic. They'll read one theater, or they just listen to Duke Ride without actually going to do their own research, and they just get a one-sided view of it without looking at both sides. Look, I listen to CNN. I listen to Rachel Maddow every once in a while. I mean, I listen to the other side too, partly because I want to see what they're up to. But I try to get both sides of an issue and then form my own opinion. And I think that's a lot of what we're missing in the information age. It's not social media's fault, it's our fault.
And if we stop thinking of the other person that's on the other side of the fence from us politically as our enemy,
right,
and we start looking at them as to how can I help them see the green lights that I've seen on my side, and try to educate and not try to put down. There's too much. We're too quick to put each other down with a negative comment, which ends the conversation. Nobody wants that. Nobody's going to sit for that, and it just divides us. But education is the key. The whole point of education is to teach people how to read and think for themselves. That should be the point of all education. And the media, we have so much media. Which one do you choose? Who do you rely on? That becomes the critical element.
Yeah.
Because if you rely on one particular one and you just stay focused on that, and that's your daily routine, you're missing the worldview of the whole segment. And I just want to encourage people to like what you're saying, to be open. Don't let people convince you that we're about to go into civil war again if our party doesn't win this cycle.
That was brought up at lunch today.
Yeah, don't let people talk to you like that. Challenge those people that are saying those words, because that's how things get out of control. It starts with a spark and it cycles pretty quickly historically. So these things, they've happened in the past. We always say that history repeats itself. It doesn't. It rhymes with it, though. There's different segments of our history that are similar to other parts, and all indicators are right now is we're at a tipping point. We need calmer heads to prevail, and that's what I'm hoping to teach my students, and that's what I'm hoping to teach my friends, and that's just we all can contribute to that.
Sounds like a great program. We might have to take the tour one day.
Yeah, may need to do that. That sounds. I love history. Like I was telling you, I like pre-Civil War, and I like that part of history. I can remember in school going to Vicksburg, and I often think what has happened to our education system, because kids are not learning. They don't learn about the Constitution. Just they're not getting any of that anymore, and it's a shame. It really is.
And they've done away with this idea of field trips, so it's real hard to get the school boards to let the students leave campus. Now there's safety concerns. You have to have all the hosts and all the different background checks for everybody that's on the bus with the students.
Now,
you're getting into. There's a lot of resistance.
You realize you're setting up one of our next guys to come on here. You're setting him up for failure, a school board member. But we're not going to beat him up too bad.
No, take it easy. Encourage.
Creighton Cochran's over there. I think he's going to come talk to us too. But anyway.
Well, and it's not all the local school board's fault. I mean, we pick on the local Bossier area politics, but it's not all of their fault, and it's not every school board member. I mean, they don't necessarily all have good.
Look, I'll make no bones about it. I've formed an opinion, and my opinion is the Department of Education, we just need to shut it down. It needs to go. And I think if we got that out of the way, and the anchors that it puts on the local school boards, the states.
Well, it's the bribery and the blackmail.
Oh yeah,
because they bribe the local and the state with money.
Yeah, here's the money, but oh by the way, you can't talk about this historical thing, or if you do, you got to say this is actually what happened.
And the politicians that we elect on the local level are so sensitive. Critical race theory, people don't know what it means, but they have a lot of opinions on it. And it's normally not a true opinion based on facts.
Well, being a history buff, we've got weak politicians now.
Yeah.
We had politicians with spines, before my time here, but our politicians of today, they're spineless.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, unfortunately. And that's doing what we don't want to do, lumping them all into the spineless category.
I don't
know.
Many politicians.
Yeah, there are some that are trying to do better and be better, but we got to keep encouraging them as citizens.
Okay, Clay Higgins, he's got a spine. Clay Higgins has a spine.
We'll just leave it at that.
Can I ask you one question before we go?
Yes, ma'am.
I heard you mention Duval. Mm-hmm. What were you doing in Duval?
Grew up. Part of my childhood in Haynesville, part of it in Monroe, and the rest of it in Ruston and Dubai. And some good friends of mine.
That's where my husband's from. That's
oh, really?
George Burzell, all the Burzels up there.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. So I didn't associate the name with it. So, as a matter of fact, my best friends are from Dubai and all that. The Fullers that had the propane and the alligator farm up there and all that. So I'm spent a lot of time in Dubai.
Yeah. Have you ever been up to the Burzels up in the Pine Country? They have a building, a big metal building up there. They have a church up there,
right?
And a cemetery, and then they built this big building up there.
I probably have at some point, and I know my buddy Mike and Tanya would know it immediately. So So I didn't actually live in Dubai. I lived in Ruston and traveled. It's 13 miles. 13 miles from my house to Dubai.
Yeah. So. I got lost before you got the cell phones. Yeah. I get up in those pine trees and I get lost all the time when I first started going up there.
Right. Yeah. My wife's from Oklahoma, and so when she came down here, she looked and she said, "Are all the pine trees this big?" Because, in Oklahoma, I call them scrub trees. Most of the trees are only 20 or 30 foot tall at the most. I mean, that's a big tree in Oklahoma. And you get down here, and we got, 60 and 80 foot pine trees easy. So.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you.
We thank y'all for coming on and enjoyed the chat. And
coming out
all right,
the
good conversation.
The neighborhood. Yeah.
And what did you stop when you knocked on my door for what?
Let's say that again. I'm sorry.
You said you came to my house and knocked on my door.
Yeah, when we were collecting signatures for the term limits petition, and that day you signed the petition when I came to your door.
All right. Good to meet you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am. Thank you. All right. Well, that was a very interesting conversation. Like I said, I learned something new tonight in the middle of trying to get our sound situated.
So you were back talking before they came up. We were talking about the first show. I think you were gonna and what got us started.
Yeah. So I want to play this clip. This is from show number 1, 4 years ago. I don't think either one of us realized it's been 4 years, folks, that we've been doing Bossier Watch, Louisiana Watch, and a little bit.
How many hours? How many?
At one time I started adding it up, but if you figure our average show has been 90 minutes, I'm just going to say a loose average. I mean, we've gone 3.5 hours before.
Right.
But if we just say the averages and 228 official shows,
right,
that is a lot of hours. Looks like we have another guest.
Okay. We are live.
Okay.
And
we are live.
So we'll put the first show on hold.
Yes. All right, so let me adjust the camera. So go ahead and why don't you introduce Mr. Lewis?
Well, I don't think he needs any introduction.
Well, that's okay, dude.
He's kind of like us. He is infamous.
Right.
So here's what I want to know. So exactly how fast can I drive on the Walker Bigby Carriageway? Can I hook it up?
Well, of course, I know that we have speed limits in place, so we're just going to do what we always do.
What speed limits?
Follow the law as best we can. So
Right.
nothing new and nothing. Well, I wouldn't say nothing new, but nothing different about that.
So it's not the Autobahn.
Certainly not. Certainly not.
Can you imagine going around that roundabout deal there at about 80 miles an hour on 2 wheels? That's straight up Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love to have a race car and I could light that thing up.
I don't think anyone would argue that that's newsworthy, but the article I thought it was a bit dramatic.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you're talking about the Keel article. Yeah.
After
Okay.
a couple of hours of ticket writing, which is more than we should have had, I think we all agree. But then to compare it to the most notorious speed trap in the state.
I think that's a little over.
Oh, did they do that? I didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't read the whole article.
Just read the article.
Give us the official version of that, and then we'll move on to more interesting topics.
Okay.
What actually happened from the city's perspective?
Well, and of course, I would allow our chief of police to speak for himself.
Right.
However, I would take the liberty to give some insight. It's simply that the officers, they were in the area on the carriageway, and they wrote a ticket or so. And so our position is that that's not what we want, and that we want to make sure that citizens become familiar with it, they become aware of the speed and that type of thing. So on behalf of the officers, they did not, in theory, do anything wrong if someone is speeding. However, something as good and as positive as the opening of a much needed carriageway in our city, we don't want it to be characterized, or the first thing for it to be known for is for tickets. So
yeah, it's not a toll booth, right?
Oh, by no means, by no means. And so the officers, we respect them, but obviously the police chief thought that it was obviously not a good look for us, as we can see from all of the fallout from it. But I will take that. I think, like with anything, if you find something that you're doing, if it's good, you do it better. And if it's something that can be corrected, you acknowledge it, you correct it, and then you move on. And that's what the city of Bossier is attempting to do as relates to that.
Yeah, we want people to be able to get from point A to point B in a timely manner.
Oh, no doubt.
But don't speed.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, you're a media person. I mean, and we call ourselves amateur journalists, in which I know people would argue with that. But the media isn't always, or the story doesn't always come across the way it should. Maybe it's intentionally. Sometimes I will acknowledge we're probably guilty of not putting it out there exactly the way it should be or best. And that's something that comes to mind that, and we can talk about it or not. It's up to you. But I know I recalled the 50-cent stuff, and I didn't think that the way Bossier's position was reported, I didn't think it was fair to Bossier. And if you want to take a shot at that?
Of course, I'd love to do that, and I appreciate that perspective. Now, in that at that particular time, I think that the overall concern was the communication as related to the project. It was a major project, obviously. And so I think had we had an opportunity to do it again, we very possibly would have done something different. But I think what the media did not get a chance to report is that Bossier City did make offers. We even offered Brooks's Arena, which is much bigger, much more space and that type of thing. But as it relates to Mr. Jackson or 50 Cent, Bossier City wants to be on the record that we support their projects. We want to see them do well. And if there's anything that Bossier City can do to support it, then we're going to do that. So we took a bit of a black eye on that, but there were a couple of reasons surrounding it. But we want the takeaway to be that we understand that it's a project for which both cities can benefit. And so that's the mayor's position on it.
Yeah. Yeah, my recollection was you didn't have a lot of heads up. That may or may not have been correct. And, just the communication was broken down.
I would say that was a large part of it. And, it's something of that magnitude. I think that even they, and it was a great success, and we're very proud of that, was probably surprised with the overall magnitude of it. But we've learned a lot from it. And I think that we can move forward and that we can be better partners as we move forward as well.
Yeah, so if 50 Cent wanted to come over and invest on this side of the river too, the city is more than willing to be.
Oh, absolutely. Not only do we want it, we welcome it. We welcome it. For obvious reasons, when you look at the proximity of where he is, I think it's just smart to think that if there's any benefit for him or for us or for our region, that we should all take advantage of it and support it as long as it's prosperous and positive. And it appears to be, and it is that way. So we want in as well, obviously.
So give us something. I mean, normally we're not a feel-good show, let's say. We've been...
I think we feel good tonight.
It is nice. It's comfortable.
I'm actually enjoying this. I love it.
Yeah. Not too hot out here. We've had hot dogs and food and drinks for everybody, but give us a little bit of positive stuff that we can look forward to coming up in Bossier City, or something that's happened lately that's, overall positive.
I appreciate that, and of course, that's pretty much what I do. So I think it's like a mechanic who should always have a wrench, or a pastor should always have a sermon. I think that a public information officer should also always have something positive to say about the city and the people that they represent. I think that as we look at Bossier City, there are quite a few positives. Obviously, I would focus on the things that are on the way that we're all aware of. As relates to Louisiana Live, that's going to be that's a biggie. As relates to chasing ACEs, so we find that there are major businesses that still find Bossier City attractive. So that's a good thing. Public safety, we're very, very proud of. Just recently, the Bossier City Fire Department received our Class 1 rating as relates to our overall insurance rating, which is as high as you can possibly get. And insurance ratings are one of the things that attracts businesses to communities. So our fire department is doing a very, very good job, even by those people who, of course, I would say so, but those who are rated and those who grade it have identified it to be amongst the very best. So that's a good thing. We're hiring. We have an academy full of firefighters now that will be graduating the first week of November. And so we'll have another 15 or so firefighters in place to take care of the needs of the citizens of Bossier. So we're excited about that. And so we have a number of things that we're proud of.
And let me help you. Bossier City didn't roll taxes forward; they rolled them back.
And I don't know how you can not find that to be good news when we look at our overall climate and how people view taxes in general. We know that they're necessary, but for a city government to find an opportunity to not increase, when they definitely could have, I think that says a lot for the city government overall. So our citizens benefit in that respect.
See, to me, that is true economic development. A lot of people view economic development as the government takes tax dollars and then we're just reappropriating it to get a business to come here. Whereas, in my opinion, if you structure government to where you keep the taxes low in the first place. You keep the environment such that the business wants to come there because
and thus more taxes.
Thus more taxes. Yeah, you
Or
keep
a
growing.
larger tax base.
Right, exactly. And and we look at all of those things that I think that most people that would attract citizens to any community, a good school system. Bossier City has that. Quality of life issues as relates to water, public safety. Those are things that we kind of take for granted that we're blessed to have in our community, and where there are other communities who wish that they were comparable in those areas of water and public safety and things like that. So I think that the administration overall is continuing to work every day to do a better job. But I think overall there are some bright spots if we just look a little bit.
I would tend to agree. See, we can do positive things.
Yeah, absolutely. So you went to another. You came to this one. You went to another
Yes,
one,
sir.
and
Yes,
then
sir.
you came back to visit with us.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, where was the other National Night Out event
You
at?
have some south of town.
Okay, yeah.
On Sussex, and you had one in Hooter, and several in South Bossier as well. So a couple of communities are getting out. I was really a little disappointed in that. I was blessed to be here this time last year, and I made a personal commitment. Well, next year I'm going to make sure that we put a greater focus on National Night Out and kind of increase it. And so got a little off track in that respect, but it's my prayer and my plan that we're going to make it bigger. But tonight it's been great here at Immanuel. It's just been a great example of what National Night Out is all about. It's just an opportunity for citizens and communities to come together, and then for those public safety and city officials to come out as well, for that partnership all being focused on keeping our community safe. So I really commend this ministry and this church for doing what church is supposed to do, and that's reach outside of the walls of the church and impact the community. And so I really commend Immanuel for that.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, we've had a gorgeous night so far. Weather's been absolutely perfect. Hopefully it will be next year, and then maybe next year, we'll try to promote the night out deal a little bit more, and the city may have. So I'm not
snuck up on me. I didn't realize it at all.
When this roof called us and reached out to us, I had just kind of forgotten about it.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, good deal.
Well, thank you again, and you are welcome to come on Bossier Watch anytime.
I am so humbled that you all allow us an opportunity to speak and just come out and talk to you guys. And I know that what you do, you are committed to reporting anything that affects our community. And so I appreciate the fact that you do that. And it's an honor to come and talk to you guys. And all issues are not always warm and fuzzy. I get that, but it's nice every now and then when we can come out and talk about some good things, which y'all do quite often, I would say.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and taking a few minutes to sit here and chat with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. You guys have a great evening.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, see, we proved all the naysayers wrong. We did have positive things to say about Bossier City. I'm just harping on that tonight.
Yeah, well, that's the whole night is a positive night. It's a walk on the positive side. Huh?
Look, folks, and look, we've had a ton of comments. We've been running about 50, 60 people tonight. The Twitter feed dropped for some reason. I'll have to figure out on the technical side. It's probably because we're on a cell connection. So we don't have quite the crowd that we normally do, but we've had a good turnout here. A good turnout physically here as well. There were quite a few people that came through, lots of firemen, lots of Bossier PD here, and a few other law enforcement types that I saw.
I guess we're going to be wrapping this up here pretty soon.
Yeah, they're picking up the tables and chairs. We need to probably wrap this up. Let me roll this video. I teased it out, and we'll just kind of close out with that. Anything else you want to say?
Well, go ahead, let's do that, and we'll come back on.
Okay, so y'all, we're not leaving yet. Y'all watch this video. It's about 2 minutes long. It's what we've said. Literally, this is show number 1. About what the purpose of Bossier Watch is. You and I have talked about this and had this idea for quite a while, to be able to share things that happen in Bossier politically, don't make the newspaper, things that people talk about kind of among themselves, the good old boy network, all that sort of thing. Duke, why don't you tell us your idea and vision of this?
There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, and there's a lot of issues, and you and I kind of always clicked trying to find out the why of things. And that's what a lot of people don't get, is the why of things, and they don't have time to go to a school board meeting. They don't have time to go to a police jury meeting. They don't have time to look up, a legislative bill. They don't have time to go to a city council meeting and cut to the chase on all of these issues. The mainstream media, I guess you could say, or the normal media, doesn't typically cover things in detail and give you enough detail to where a regular person can chew on it. I think this is going to be a way that we can put information out there to the public and allow them to get the other side of the story, I guess you could say.
So, that is literally a clip from show number 1 4 years ago, where we explained the purpose of Bossier Watch and kind of what our vision for it was. And I think to this day, we're still steering mostly in that same direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And what, like Lewis was talking about, it's not always pretty, it's not always glamorous, but the point of the matter is we're just trying to get information out there, share information, make people ask questions, and maybe they learn something, maybe they don't. And but you never know if you get the information out there. So speaking of information, we've got another person. Now, I pulled him away from, his volunteering up here. He was picking up chairs, picking up tables, because they're kind of wrapping things up here. But this guy is a up-and-coming major politician from Bossier.
That sounds
okay. I am loading it up here big time. I was encouraged to see him at the dirt tracks here a couple of weekends ago. I was like, hey, man, look, I got something in common with this dude. He likes the dirt tracks, too.
Yep. I get out and about, Duke. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. You do. I saw today that the school board appointed all new school board members, and they voted to not roll taxes forward. How did that happen?
So I was there at that meeting today, and I tell you, I was very impressed with the new superintendent. I was very impressed with the new board members. I say we just hand it over to them and let them run with it.
Boy, I want to tell you, it was impressive. It really was. If y'all didn't see it, you need to go.
Oh, we get stuck in a lot of mundane stuff, and a lot of very serious issues come across our table, and we got to put out fire, so to say. But when it's things like that, that's truly the true essence of what I love to do, and go and see the young people do what they do. And they are the future. Like I told them today, I got to speak with them for a very short time. You are our biggest asset that we have here in Bossier Parish.
Yeah.
And I think there's maybe 40, maybe 50 to 50 kids in the room at the time. And out of thousands of students, you got those 40 in there for our Bossier youth leaders. I think we're in good hands. I really do.
So some of you watching, y'all may not know who we were kind of joking and horsing around a little bit, but Clayton Cochran, he's in school board district.
Clayton Cochran, school board district 7.
I said Clayton, didn't I?
That's all right. I get called a lot of things, dude. Jackwagon, Clayton. you name it, I get called it.
I don't think I've called you a jackwagon yet, but there's still time.
Yeah, we got time.
But anyway, I think you're in your first term.
That's right.
And the kids that were filling the roles, acting like they were y'all or what have you. A question that comes to my mind is and we, just being from Louisiana, we talk about how all of our youth, we just train them to send them out of here. That when you were saying what you were saying, I was immediately thinking in the back of my head, I'm saying, yeah, but how many of them are going to stay here? They're great kids. We have a lot of great kids, but we're still not keeping them like we should.
Right.
What do we do? How do we change that? We were talking to the historian earlier, Chris Chandler, and I'm just saying my opinion. Because he was saying he thinks there's we don't teach history the way that we used to teach history, and there's both revisionist history and all of that. And where does that come from? And he espoused, and like Rex espoused, you don't think it's so much at the local level as it is the mandates that are put down. And I'll just say flat out, I think we need to do away with the federal Department of Education and let the local, the state and locals handle that. Is that where we're getting beat up here, you think, in education?
The people that are doing the jobs that we implore them to do, they're having to do so much other stuff right now, dude. We're asking our teachers to do more than teach. We're asking our principals to do more than principal, and we're asking our counselors to do more than counsel. And a lot of that is because it's mandated on us. If you want set amount of money, you got to do said thing. So in theory, what you're saying, hey, if we just cut off the money, shouldn't we just have to cut off that? Now, how that looks, I haven't got there. Like you said, I've only been here 2.5 years, still learning a whole lot. So how does that look if we just say, what, hey, to heck with your mandates, we don't want your money, we don't want your charity, so we're not going to abide by your rules. I don't really know how that looks right now, and if we can get there, maybe one day we will.
Right.
Interesting point. Yeah. And of course, there's a whole other issue that if we did away with the federal Department of Education, what happens to all those tax dollars that we're paying in on the federal level? I mean, they're just going to divert those funds to, I don't know what other behemoth government agency they'll create. So there's that problem.
Oh, I'm going to get us flag Ukraine. We'll just send it to Ukraine.
I hate to laugh about it because folks in North Carolina and Tennessee and Kentucky could use those dollars right now to help them out after the flood. But it's like a never-ending cycle to me. And I agree that we need to empower the local, and maybe the state some, but more so the local school boards and the local school agencies and all that with more power than what we give them. I'm sick of hearing that, we can't do this because there's federal tax dollars involved and we'll lose those federal tax dollars. Again, I call it extortion.
So again, coming from the private sector and being a businessman myself, it's hard for me to understand just what you spoke of. It's taking the money from the federal government and accepting their money puts us in a situation that maybe we want to be in or not want to be in. But coming from the private sector, I make my money through my front door. I get to say what goes on with it. I get to pick who I want to do, and we do the job that I want them to do. What I'm learning is that here in this sector, it's not always like that. And it can be frustrating for guys like me, but I'm learning, trying to figure out the right doors to open. It's all about relationships. You got to know the right people to talk to, and you got to get in the right room. So that's what we're working on here. And again, I just applaud you guys for coming out here in the open. Here you come to my neighborhood now. It says, you ain't going to go over there and talk to them. I said, man, they're in my neighborhood now. I'm not scared of those boys. But I do, I appreciate even what you guys are doing. I know that from my side of it, we could have a bad or negative look about it, but I realize what you guys' job are and what you're out here doing. I don't have any beef with it, so I salute you. Thank you for coming out and doing it.
Well, we appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. And anytime, if there's something you want to get the message out, just holler at Duke or whatever, and we'll have you on. And,
I appreciate you saying that because, we don't get it right all the time. We are human. A lot of times, information that we get from a source anonymously. And some people say, well, you maybe not should put anonymous stuff out there. But historically, anonymous sources have been a good source of information to better the community and shining a light on things that needed transparency. And, so I would say that, and I would say this to anybody, in politics, we're reasonable. Come talk to us and say, that's just not right. Here's what's right. Because a lot of times we don't know. And we're trying to get there. The only way we can improve, iron sharpens iron. The only way we can improve is if we debate and we talk about the issues out in the public and, have those arguments. And you can do that and not throw punches,
Yeah, you can. I've always been an open door. If you want to talk to me, and I've talked to you numerous times personally.
We've debated in your front yard.
And we can go do it again tonight. I'm fine with that. And I'm one of those guys, man, I'm an average dude. I'm going to make average mistakes. I'm going to make some big ones. I'm going to make some small ones. If I can get it right 85 to 90% of the time, that's what I'm shooting for. We're not in the people making happy business, so to say, because we do have to make very tough decisions on behalf of a group of people. So sometimes they're not popular decisions. If I'm going to make the decision, I want to stand by it. I want to be able to come to you guys, look you in the face, and say, hey, I did this, feel good about it. 6 months from now, I hope I'm not eating crow, so to say. So, but
can't argue with
I
that.
appreciate the invitation. Thanks for coming to my neighborhood, guys.
All right, we appreciate
We
it.
enjoyed it. Thank you. Take care, brother.
All right, see you later, Chris. All right,
Have a good
thank
night.
you. All right, well, they are like wrapping everything up, and they're staring at us, wanting their table and chairs.
Well, let's wrap it up and close it. And first time
First out of the gate,
remote,
literally remote, outside of all things. Again, want to give a big shout out to the old GreenAcres Neighborly Association. Hope I said that correctly. And Immanuel Church here for hosting all of this event. I've had a good time. It's been comfortable out here and nice. We had a few audio issues. We'll work on that in the future. But overall, I learned something tonight.
Yeah. Good job setting up everything. I didn't do nothing but show up. You did.
But you sat over there and engaged and ran your mouth while I was trying to figure out audio issues. I do want to say, so I've got some information on the Good Old Boys because there was a couple of comments made on one of our Facebook posts. We'll be addressing that before too long. Don't worry about that. And on the next show next week. So
yeah, what exactly is a good old boy? What exactly? We showed our first show and what precipitated it, but
right.
Somebody made a post and wanted to know, well, who's the good old boys? What or who?
We might should do a list and check it twice.
Oh yeah,
naughty and nice list, a good old boys and not so good old boys list.
Do we get to make the list of the good old boys?
Sure, but we want public input. So if you're watching the show, post a comment. Let us know who you think is on the good old boys list. Who would you say in Bossier politics, parish, city, whatever, is on that good old boys list?
Now, just if somebody posts it on the page, we got to put them on the list, right?
We're going to review it.
Or you're reviewing it, or if they just put the name of somebody,
Well, nominate people to be on the good old boys list.
Nominations are nominated.
Nominations are open.
And so then we've got to go through the names and delineate whether or not they are meet the qualifications to be a good old boy.
And we're going to define what good old boy actually means. That's coming up very, very soon. We may post it on Facebook tomorrow.
Oh, this is going to be
coming up for the next show.
This is going to be rich. Yes. This is going to be rich.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and hit the finish button. We appreciate everybody that hung out with us and watched, and we will definitely be back next Tuesday if we don't do a special show in between. Who knows? We fly by the seat of our pants all the time.
Yep, got that right. Good night, folks.
All right, we are out of here.